Hey everyone, Lotus Prince here. It's time for another Q&A session, so let's take a look at the questions that were sent to me, and I'll do my best to see if I can't answer them effectively. We'll start right away. Jason Howarth asks, what was your first gaming experience? Unless it's something like watching Tetris on DOS, then maybe Jump Jet on DOS. Jump Jet is kind of like Defender. You're a plane, you fly horizontally, and you go through, I want to say 4 levels before the game loops, and you go for a high score. It was pretty fun to play at the time, and I think it might be available on one of those sites that lets you just choose a bunch of DOS games to play, like in a little embed thing. It's kind of cool. Otherwise, do you enjoy watching or playing sports? No, not really. I mean, if you sat me down and made me watch something, then I could derive enjoyment from it, but I don't care enough to go seek out the next big game to watch. I don't really care. Daniel Dave Taylor asks, of the Silent Hill games, which story did you personally find yourself most engrossed in? Which story captured your imagination the most, and what was the saddest moment you experienced? I don't know if this is necessarily a fair answer, because I might be swayed because it was my first Silent Hill experience, but probably Silent Hill 2, especially because so many games later in the series tried to use the twist of Silent Hill 2, which no longer works because I've seen it already. If any of them had come first, then they might have blown my mind too, but when I played them I thought, oh, it's that again. So Silent Hill 2 impacted me because I played that one first probably, and for saddest moment, it was either in Silent Hill 2 when James watches the tape, or Silent Hill 3 in the cutscene before Heather ends up going to Silent Hill when she gets back to the apartment. Almo, is there a game you want to LP so bad, but can't for any reason? And similarly, Neon Wave asks, is there a game you ever wanted to do a Let's Play for the channel or live stream, but for one reason or another you couldn't? So same question. I mean, I guess there are some games that don't like modern systems, like, I mean, I haven't been dead set on this one, but somebody had asked me about Neverhood before, and it just doesn't seem to like Windows 10. Little things like that can get in the way, or this is something I was able to finally do, but I tried recording Frog Fractions with my friend Vice, and we would get crashing, or the sound dies partway through. That even happened when I recorded it solo. I had to give it 2 shots to make it work again. It was a real nuisance. At least that one finally pulled through. But then there are some games that I just didn't happen to buy when they were reasonably priced. Like, I've been asked to do, for example, Kodelka for PS1, but that's like $200 now, so maybe I could fudge things and use a PSIO, but so far I've really only been using that for fan-translated games, so I don't know. Like, there are some games like that that are just out of reach, or like the Sega CD. The good news is I happen to have a couple of the most difficult ones to get, but then there's The Space Adventure, the incredibly generically titled The Space Adventure. I think it's supposed to be Space Adventure Cobra, but in America that's just all it's called. I don't have that one, and I probably won't be getting it anytime soon. So things like that. Hydro Crow, are you going to play any other Danganronpa games? I'd like to. If I do, I'll probably just stream it, because Pyro Jack Frost, the person I recorded the first one with, is like pushing 2 hours away now, and there's COVID, so I might just end up streaming them. Although I will say it was very fun to have the dynamic of his knowing what was going on and my not knowing, so he got to inform me on certain situations. That was pretty entertaining. Nick Cooper, do you have any plans on playing Spec Ops: The Line? No, not really. I never got into military shooters, and I know this one subverts that, but I already know what the subversion is, where you're being made to feel guiltier and guiltier the whole time. So even though it might still impact me, it's not going to be to the degree that it would have if I didn't already know kind of what happens. Manny Stovall asks, have you heard of Manhunt 1 and 2? Yeah, I've heard of them. I mean, I own them too. I've played the first one, but I don't know anything about the second one, except that I think there was a more uncensored version for the Wii before they took out one of the little movements you could do for the... I forgot what they're called. I know glory kills is a Doom 2016 term, but let's just call it those. Luca95. Any plans to do another all release differences video for RE3, like you did for RE1 and 2? Yeah, probably, but not now. I don't know when I'm going to feel like doing it. Part of it is that those videos are very difficult and tedious to make, even if only because I have to beat the game 10,000 times on each version of it. The good news is for Resident Evil 3, as far as I know, there's just the demo disc and the PS1 version, which I have. No, actually... Yeah, I think I do have it on PS1. GameCube, which I have, but I'm missing Dreamcast and PC. Dreamcast I might be able to fudge with a GDEMU, but I'd still rather be able to say, look, I legitimately own the game, same for PC, but at least there's only, as far as I know, 4 versions. Although I guess you could argue there was like a different company's PC version, which is missing stuff or whatever, but yeah, if I do another version comparison video, RE3 will probably be among the easier ones, but I'm missing pieces, and those things are still very difficult to make. And God help me if I ever choose to do RE4. Tobena Odese, I hope I pronounced that right, I apologize if I didn't, asks, can you do more Resident Evil Let's Plays? And there are more questions here, but first, Mark Rice, will we ever see Resident Evil 4, another Resident Evil Let's Play? Jin SS, will you do a Let's Play of Resident Evil 4? I mean, yeah, I've been playing every Resident Evil game, including Survivor 2, which was imported from Europe. I wasn't planning on stopping on Resident Evil 0, and Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games in the series, but I just don't want to keep doing Resident Evil after Resident Evil, because games take a while, and if you're not into Resident Evil, then this could go for months. Similarly, if I do one game between Resident Evil, that could be anywhere from a week to a month. Everything just seems to take long. Now, Tobena continues. How are you going about this lockdown? Pretty okay, actually. My jobs can be done remotely, so I just switched over to remote in March, after spring break, and over the summer, tutoring stuff, able to do it through Zoom, so it's actually been pretty okay. And I don't really go out too much anyway, so it hasn't impacted me as negatively as it would people who really want to go out and travel and, you know, have lots of big meetings and stuff like that. I'm not that kind of person anyway, so I've been not unaffected, but largely unaffected, which is fortunate. Basically, I just lost my work commute. Do you have a girlfriend? No. Can you show us your game collection? I would like to. My problem is not so much that I can't do it, it's just that my room is messy, and like I guarantee if I started going, so, here's the other stuff, people would be like, what's that doing over there? Why haven't you dealt with that yet? So, I really rather get my gaming area in more presentable condition. Groovy George. Hi, Lotus Prince. My question is, what's your all-time favorite game console? That's kind of tough. It might be between the Sega Genesis, because I have nostalgia for it, and the PlayStation 2, because it's also a PlayStation 1, and it has one of the biggest, I think it had the biggest library of games when it was released. I don't know if it still holds the record for that, but it has a ton of stuff. PS3 and PS4, though, are still very cool, and I enjoy playing them, but PS2 and Genesis, and I'm aware Super Nintendo also had amazing stuff, I just don't have as much of a history with the Super Nintendo. Connor, if you were given the budget and resources of a AAA studio, what sort of game would you make? I probably wouldn't. I'm not interested in making games, and I'd probably make a crappy one, no matter how much money I had. So let's say visual novel, for the sake of being able to finish the damn thing sometime this lifetime. I don't know if that's necessarily my favorite, well, it's not my favorite genre, but you don't want me making a game. Red Buckley, did you ever see JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Diamond is Unbreakable, Chapter 1, and Tokyo Ghoul live-action movies? No. I don't really know or care about Tokyo Ghoul, but yeah, it is kind of surprising I have not seen JoJo Part 4 Part 1, live action. And it's even Takashi Miike. Like, that sounds like it would be right up my alley. I will admit that his Yakuza movie was, like, okay. It had an entire B plot that didn't matter, and it cut out a lot of the A plot for the B plot. That was weird. And they made Kiryu young to be, I don't know, relatable to the audience, but his whole thing is that he's, like, pushing 40. And the movie was okay. I love what they did with Majima. I have not seen Phoenix Wright, but I heard it was mediocre as well. But I still would like to see JoJo Part 4. I don't know how the hell you do stands in live action. Like, weird CG. It's probably going to look bizarre, but I guess I'll give it a shot at some point. I don't know. Oh yeah, I missed this part. If you have seen them, how do you think of how they compare to the manga or anime? No comment. Also, would you LP Yume Nikki as a co-op? Or other RPG Maker games like it at some point? And what are your thoughts on those types of games if you come across any? I'm aware of Yume Nikki, but I don't really know it. So, oh, definitely co-op. Definitely single player. That I couldn't answer. Probably single player, because I do most things single player. But no plans to Let's Play it, or anything like it at the time. The closest I've come to RPG Maker games would probably be... Well, Corpse Party Blood Drive on... Or not Blood Drive, Corpse Party Blood Covered, like the first Corpse Party that America got. That was an updated version of what was a, I think, RPG Maker or Game Maker kind of game. So there's that. And the old school version's available on Steam and GOG now, although I haven't yet played it. Charles Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden was, I want to say Game Maker. That was a ton of fun. But otherwise, I don't really have much experience in those, like the games made on those kinds of engines. The Devil Hunters. How long have you been playing the piano? This one kind of hurts to answer. I started taking lessons in the 3rd grade and went through 12th. So this is when I was like 7 or 8 through like 17 or 18. So I've been playing the piano like that for about a decade. But then I really fell off the wagon and I still know how to play, but I kind of suck again. So I have fallen off. I should be able to say I've been playing for 20 years, but that's just not true, which is a shame. I need to get back onto it. Dave Jackson. Do you plan on doing a Let's Play of The Evil Within 1 and 2? Maybe at some point. I do have them, and they look cool, so I would like to. Any more collaborations with your friends? Well, that's getting tougher due to COVID, and because a bunch of my friends, like Pyro Jack Frost, who I did Danganronpa with, is now way up in New York, and Old Man Stompy and Minty Mitts, whom I did Undertale and 999 with, they're pretty far away as well, so like I don't really have many collaborations in store, although I have recorded one with Vice, which is Lazarul's 3rd game in his silly sort of VN style stuff. How have you been doing since the virus has been going around? That one I've covered. I'm sorry, I forgot to group that with the other question. Are you still into anime? Yeah, sure, but I don't really go seeking a bunch of anime out. I usually get it filtered through a friend of mine who he watches of a lot more than I do, and he'll be like, oh, Lotus, this is a good one, you should take a look. And then I will. But right now, the only one I'm really following is One Piece. Will you tackle Clock Tower 3? Yeah, I'd like to. I just did Clock Tower 2. And man, we need an uptick. That was not very good. Speaking of which, Simusfan 1989. After seeing the, in my opinion, dreadful playthrough of Clock Tower 2, the game, not the LP, I can see the necessity of playing with a guide for the sake of a more efficient game progression. I do wonder, however, what factors you consider when deciding on whether you'll be playing with a guide or going in blindly till the end. Personally, I prefer blind playthroughs with a more in-depth conclusion at the end, but in cases like Clock Tower 2, I cannot deny that a guide was pretty much mandatory to maintain everyone's sanity. An insight into your preparation would be much appreciated. For Let's Plays, I'm almost certainly going to use a guide, unless it's completely, like, that's not the point at all, like a beat-em-up or something, or Doki Doki Literature Club. There's a good way to beat that game, but the fun is seeing what happens because of your choices on that one. There's not really like a an achievement list for completion, so I kind of like going into that blind, but that's pretty much how I do it, mostly with guides. Because the thing is, as a Let's Player, I have a huge backlog, it takes a while to record stuff. I would rather just get the game right the first time than take long figuring it out on my own and then deleting the half hour of me being confused and not figuring it out. When it comes to playing games on my own, I might be a little more willing to play blindly, especially if it's stuff like Uncharted, where just go, beat the game, it's fine. But if I'm looking for completion, I will absolutely use a guide. Shenanigans. How do you feel about the new spiritual successor to Suikoden that currently has a very successful Kickstarter? I'm happy that it exists. What a coincidence that this came about shortly after I started playing Suikoden. Like, that worked out pretty nicely. Now I'm particularly into it. Do you plan to play it? Yes. When it comes out? Probably not. I very rarely play things when they come out. I have other things that I'm playing. What are the odds that I just finished an LP when this thing came out, you know? And even if I did start playing it when it came out, I would either stream it and take a million years to play it, or I would Let's Play it and take a million years to... oops, I lost my page. Or I would Let's Play it and take a million years to start uploading it. So everyone's like, oh my god, are you going to play this new game now that you're into Suikoden? And then it goes up like 3 months later, and everyone's like, oh, you're a little late on that. Well, yeah. Like, what do you want? Did you back it? Yes, I did. Fred Kozak, is there any LP you regret? There's not a Let's Play that I regret, but there are aspects of them that I do. Like, a lot of my early stuff has bad mic audio because I conflated volume with amp. So I cranked up the amp. So when I talked into the mic, it sounded like I was right up against the mic. And it's pretty obnoxious, frankly. But otherwise, I don't regret the actual Let's Plays. Do you have a favorite LP you've uploaded? That's tough. I mean, I like a lot of the co-op stuff I've done because of the interactions between me and whomever I've been playing with. Like with Mr. Ryu, we have a lot of the silly stuff, like Overblood and Ride to Hell, or the fun jump scare stuff, like Until Dawn and Man of Medan. With Old Man Stompy and Minty Mitts, we have Undertale and 999. With Old Man Stompy, we have Harvester as well. With Pyrojack Frost, we have Danganronpa. With Vice, we have, or my friend Vice the Bowls, full name, username. We have Doki Doki Literature Club. We have Charles Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden. We have, on his channel, the arcade version of Final Fight. There's been some really good stuff that we've played, along with Lazarel's VN Successors, which we'll be getting to the third one of those pretty shortly, actually. It's already been recorded. As far as solo stuff I've done, American McGee's Alice is a classic. Typing of the Dead Overkill was a lot of fun, although adult content warning, there's like swears in that game for days. Skies of Arcadia is a classic that I've been looking forward to playing for a while. Eternal Darkness, System Shock 2, the original Deus Ex Human Revolution. Like, there's so much stuff that I've thoroughly enjoyed doing. Not to mention various streams I've done as well. So I don't have a favorite. I'm pretty bad at selecting favorites, but there's a lot of good stuff to choose from. Justin Credible Gaming. A few things here. What are your thoughts about the Last of Us 2 debacle? No comments because I don't know the plot, so I can't tell you why it sucks so much, or why it doesn't suck at all, but everyone's overblowing it. Like, I don't know. The only thing I'll say is harassing the voice actor for the roles is an asshole thing to do. Don't do that. That makes you a prick. Have you played any of the games in the series? I've played the first one, although not the DLC, because I played it when it was pretty new on PS3, so I would like to replay it, and also do the DLC. One thing I will say is that it has, and not a lot of people are necessarily going to agree with me on this, but I think it has one of the best video game endings of all time. It really impacts you. I thought it was extremely well done. And I don't mean the last sequence, I mean the last few seconds of the game, like the end. Brilliant. Sam Brown. What are your thoughts on the Siren slash Forbidden Siren franchise? Yeah, it's called Forbidden Siren everywhere, except for America where it's just called Siren. I don't know. Unfortunately, I don't have many thoughts on them. I've only played the first game for, I don't know, like a half hour. Interesting concept. You can, I was going to say mind jack. That's the name of a PS3 game. You can sight jack your enemies, so you can see through your enemy's eyes. So it's almost like looking through security cameras, but you use it to see where you are in relation to your enemies, so they don't, like, shoot you. It almost becomes a puzzle game at that point. And I got to a part where it became frustrating, but if I knew the right way to play it, it would probably be a lot smoother. But it was an interesting concept. And I have Forbidden Siren 2. I had to import it from Europe. I just need to get my PS2 to be able to play it. And I actually imported Siren Blood Curse as well, so I have it on disc and not in stupid short episodes. They tried that and they dropped it, and I'm glad they did. The episodic format of PSN stuff. That was annoying. Yeah, it's about as far as I can go. The only thing I'll say is that Siren Blood Curse, some of the preview images online creep me out, and it's very rare for just images of a game to creep me out. Usually it's playing it that does it, so that was very impressive looking. Elemental Hero Joe. What anime or game disappointed you? Anime doesn't usually disappoint me. I usually have an idea of what I'm getting into going in. I don't really watch something and go, oh well. I mean, I've watched stuff that I know going in is probably going to be pretty bad, so I get enjoyment out of it for that level, but I don't usually have high expectations and then walk away with a bad taste in my mouth from watching anime. For games, Clock Tower 2, for sure. I mean, the Clock Tower games in general don't play the best. Probably the best one is the Super Famicom game, which we never officially got. But Clock Tower 1 on PS1 is alright. You know, I wasn't expecting great things from Clock Tower 2, but I didn't expect it to be that bad. The fighting enemies is incredibly tedious in that game, especially in level 3, and the plot is a convoluted mess. In Japan it makes a lot more sense, but it's still a mess. They threw in zombies because I guess of the Resident Evil craze, and they feel out of place because they are. I mean, they give you more of a context of Bates' identity instead of just an alternate personality. It was supposed to be Alyssa's dead twin brother because of the whole twin thing they have that they talk about later in the game. That contextualizes things a lot more, but otherwise, what is going on? There have probably been a bunch of games that I've been kind of disappointed in, but that's the main one that I'm thinking now, because I just played it. Well, no I didn't. I just uploaded the Let's Play. Would you ever record a tour of your game room? I should have grouped this with the other question, but I already answered that one. Being a fan of horror, have you read any of Junji Ito's mangas? Yeah, actually I have. Vice the Bald has lent me a few of his that he got in compilations. So I've read Tomie, I've read Gyo, which is my personal favorite so far. The one with the fish that have these metal legs that crawl around. It's really creepy. With that sha-sha-sha sound effect. It's so creepy. And, I read a third one. Oh, duh, Uzumaki. I was trying to think of where that Amigara Faults one played into. Was it a compilation of short stories? No, it was just something tacked on to one of these bigger ones. But Uzumaki is probably one of his most classic, even though they made 100 movies of Tomie. But Uzumaki, I think, might be his most classic. But right now, Gyo is my favorite. That is the one that actually genuinely creeped me out. Although Uzumaki certainly had moments of like, whoa! Especially the earlier part in the manga with the main character's boyfriend's father. Once he realizes he no longer needs to be given things with spirals drawn on them, so I can make my own actually. And then after that, like his final scene in the manga is like out there. But I gotta say, the concept of Gyo is just terrifying. Also, I have not actually read it, but I've seen parts of Hellstar Ramina, and that has got to be one of the most hopeless situations I've ever seen. That is, I can hardly imagine if that were to happen in real life. The Gamer Down Under. Do you ever upload content in 1080p? Unfortunately, not really. It takes longer to render. and longer to upload, and it's more stress on the machine that I use to record my footage. If I had a better setup, then I probably would. I mean, a lot of the time you would never notice because PS3 stuff is mostly up to 720p anyway, but now that I'm doing PS4, you kind of start to feel a little bit. I would definitely like to upgrade the 1080p though, but I'm sorry that I haven't been doing that. Sabrina Hengel, is there a genre, books, games, etc., that you changed that your opinion changed a lot on over the past years, and if so, why? Probably stuff like plays, like Shakespeare plays. I was not, well, plays in general, really, but I've had more experience with Shakespeare. I kind of went into them thinking they would be the worst. I gotta read this boring play that's half a century, half a millennium old. How boring. But doing actual close readings of them and seeing some of the plays acted out, I have a lot of more appreciation for them, especially because it's a common misconception that Shakespeare writes in Old English because there are expressions we don't use today, but guess what? There are sayings from the 90s that we don't use today. We don't call that Old English. Trust me, you would know Old English if you see it. It's basically another language. Also, I didn't think of this at the time because everyone talks about what high art Shakespeare is. And a lot of his stuff is timeless, and it's easily readable today, but I don't know if it was really intended to be high art. He wanted to fill seats in a theater. Like Romeo and Juliet, the greatest love story of all time, which it isn't, by the way, because the play satirizes, I don't know about satirizes, but makes fun of the characters, but it opens with puns and sex jokes. Like, it's not designed to be this ultra classy thing. So I've definitely turned around on that. Poems, I'm still not a big fan of, but after taking a course on them in college, where we did a lot of close reading of them, I developed more appreciation for them, so I'm still not fully on board with poetry. I prefer prose, but I don't hate poetry. Downtext 4 and 20. Are you happy with Crosscode? Thanks, by the way, for putting it on my radar back then. You're welcome. I'm still waiting to play the full game. I actually pre-ordered a physical release from a limited print company, so I look forward to playing it for real, but I've certainly loved what I have played of it. Navitaj. How well do you think a team-based fighting game with multiple instances of 1v1 fighting happening at the same time, the real-time results of which buff your captain's fight with the other team captain, or add other effects, etc.? I'm not a big fighting game guy, the concept sounds interesting, but multiple 1v1 at the same time, I don't know how you would implement that unless it's like Super Smash Brothers, except, like, Super Smash Brothers has team fights. I guess if you do a team captain for that, so I guess I could see that working. I was thinking like Marvel vs. Capcom, I have no idea how that would work, but if you do like a Mario, Super Smash Brothers fight, like team fight with captains, that sounds interesting, but that's really all that I can give you. I don't go deep into fighting game meta stuff or whatever. Tiki Sensei, what genre of books do you read? I prefer sci-fi and fantasy in general, although I will say that my dad recently got me into Pearl Buck's books. She wrote The Good Earth, which was a Pulitzer winner at the time. Well, it still is a Pulitzer winner. And there's it's really brilliantly written historical fiction that gives you a look into the eyes of these fictional characters from this real period in history in China, and it's often like the 1800s and stuff like that, but it's really interesting to look at. What is your favorite book? I'm bad with favorites. I mean, of sci-fi, I really enjoy Isaac Asimov's Foundations trilogy. For fantasy, Roger Zelazny's Chronicles of Amber or Lord of Light are up there, although I think only Chronicles of Amber is readily available on bookshelves. Just like with Pearl Buck, The Good Earth is just everywhere, but she wrote a lot more than that, and you have to go to eBay or something to get those. They're all out of print. I don't know, it's weird. Have you, oh no, I missed a couple questions. What kind of camera and mic do you use when recording yourself? Well, for Let's Plays from mics, I use a Yeti Snowball, or is it? No, a Yeti's the different thing. There's a Yeti and there's a Snowball. It's Blue, I think, is the brand name. I use a Snowball. Um, and I'm not using that now, unfortunately. The camera I'm using doesn't have USB in for mic, which is kind of a shame. And even if it did, I couldn't reach anyway. I gotta get one of those lapel things at some point. But what camera am I using? I'm using a Canon Vixia HF R500, I think. I tried memorizing that before recording this. Something like that. It's a bunch of letters and numbers. Doesn't mean anything to me. Have you ever thought to try a face cam again? Maybe as a gimmick, but in general, not really. I want to put more focus on the game than on me. Whoa, Lotus Prince reacts to, like, I'd rather just show the game that I'm playing. Insane Buffoon. What do you think is the most important for a single-player game, story or gameplay? I mean, it can't be one or the other. If the game actually cares about its story, then I'll probably say story, as long as the gameplay is workable, it's not utter trash. But if you have something like Super Mario Brothers, then obviously gameplay. Like Save the Princess, there's your excuse. Go, do a bunch of cool platforming. So it really depends on what kind of game you're playing. Last rule. When will you upload your Bioforge Let's Play? Although again, the third game in your trilogy is coming up pretty soon, so I'm quite excited about that. We get to finally go to the Rome. But we'll get there, it's coming soon-ish. And finally, Christine Ford. Will you play Dino Crisis 2 and 3? Boy oh boy, do I have some good news for you. I've actually already recorded Dino Crisis 2. I'll need to see what order it's going to be uploaded in, but I think it's coming up pretty soon. Probably the non-Patreon Let's Play after Lazrules, I think. I could be wrong about that, but I want to double check that one. And as for Dino Crisis 3, I gotta see if I'm able to use the Xbox. If I can record off of it, then yeah, I do have Dino Crisis 3, so that's a possibility. And the last question here, do you feel Dino Crisis holds up well to other horror games? I mean, I saw this one video, I want to say it was from Stop Skeletons from Fighting, that was doing a retrospective on Dino Crisis, and Dino Crisis 1, the opening to that video was so on point. It was something like, remember Dino Crisis 1, way back on the PS1? Oh man, it was so cool, here's what you probably remember. And it was all these shots of Resident Evil but dinosaurs. Oh no, I'm low on ammo and there's actual dinosaurs bigger than me chasing me, what do I do? Oh my god, I tried running away, but they can open doors? Insane! This game's so scary. Ah, the T-Rex busted through the wall! But then after that, he's like, yeah, here's the part you probably forgot was in the game. And it was just so many tedious puzzles, with the crane lifting the box, or the crate, and moving it to the right location, pipes, rotating them and placing them, 1,000 codes you have to find for doors. You gotta find 2 pieces for a code, put them together, do this letter arrangement stuff, where even if you know exactly what to do, it's still tedious and boring. And can I play the game again, please? So there's a lot of that really bogs the game down. Now, I will say I greatly appreciate the fact that there are multiple choices in the game. Would you rather be safe and do this tedious puzzle, or would you rather just hurry up with the game and take the short way, but there are dinosaurs in the way? I actually quite like stuff like that, but it's not quite as replayable as other games, I don't think, like Resident Evil. With Resident Evil, you grab the item and you put it in the thing. In Dino Crisis, it's just, here's the puzzle. Now spend the next, 5 minutes actually executing it. And it just slows everything down. Resident Evil has, one crate-pushing puzzle, which itself slows the game down, but it's, the one thing, and all you do is push it from here to there and you're good. But Dino Crisis, really... If they remake Dino Crisis, I hope they streamline the puzzles considerably. Dino Crisis 2 doesn't even really try to be a horror game, but it is so much fun. It's just like an arcade experience. It's literally a run and gun. You can run and gun, which is so good. That game, it can be intimidating when big dinosaurs show up, especially unexpectedly, but it's not really full horror, but it's so much fun. Dino Crisis 3, no comment, I haven't played it. The only thing I've heard is that it's an embarrassing disaster, which kind of interests me, actually. Also, there's Dino Stalker. I remember Dino Stalker? That's a thing that exists. I gotta look into how that works as well, because I haven't played that one either. But in any case, those are the questions that have been submitted to me, so thank you very much for all the questions I've gotten. This was a lot. So, and thank you, of course, again, for your support. In the meantime, I'm going to be uploading streaming videos and maybe the occasional super hot mind control delete or the texture assist, no commentary stuff. But I'll try to get to the next Let's Play soon. It's not a very long one, so I'll do some editing on it and let you know when it's ready to go. But otherwise, thank you once again, and until next time, everyone.